Hello Year 4s and welcome back. This week we've been looking at folk tales and legends. And in the previous lesson we went through our folk tale of the Emperor's New Clothing. Today I'm going to take you through some folk tales from around the world. If you remember, a folk tale is a story that has been passed down orally, which means spoken, generation to generation, until it's been written down. This means that there are many stories from around the world that are quite similar. For example, the story of Cinderella can be found in many different countries, just slightly different in each country. Perhaps the characters are a different name, there's maybe a slightly different storyline, but the general idea of the story is still the same. So today I'm going to introduce you to some folk tales from around the world, and we are going to learn a little bit more about them. The first folk tale is from Africa, and it's called Why the Sun and the Moon Live in the Sky. So pause the video now and read the screen. Many years ago, the sun and water were great friends, and both lived on the earth together. The sun very often used to visit the water, but the water never returned his visits. At last, the sun asked the water why it was that he never came to see him in his house. The water replied that the sun's house was not big enough, and that if he came with his people, he would drive the sun out. He then said, "If you wish me to visit you, you must build a very large compound. But I warn you that it will have to be a tremendous place, as my people are very numerous and take up a lot of room." The sun promised to build a very big compound, and soon afterwards he returned home to his wife, the moon, who greeted him with a broad smile when he opened the door. The sun told the moon what he had promised the water, and the next day commenced building a huge compound in which to entertain his friend. When it was completed, he asked the water to come and visit him the next day. When the water arrived, he called out to the sun and asked him whether it would be safe for him to enter. And the sun answered, "Yes, come in, my friend." The water then began to flow in, accompanied by the fish and all the water animals. Very soon the water was knee-deep, so he asked the sun if it was still safe, and the sun again said, "Yes," so more water came in. When the water was level with the top of a man's head, the water said to the sun, "Do you want more of my people to come?" And the sun and the moon both answered, "Yes," not knowing any better. So the water flowed on until the sun and moon had to perch themselves on top of the roof. Again the water addressed the sun, but received the same answer, and more of his people rushing in. The water very soon overflowed to the top of the roof, and the sun and the moon were forced to go up into the sky, where they have remained ever since. The next folktale is a European folktale called The Two Brothers and the White-Bearded Old Man. Pause the video now and read the folktale. Once upon a time, there were two brothers. They decided to start venturing from town to town and from village to village to seek happiness. Along the way, they saw an old man with a white beard heading towards them. The old man stopped and asked the boys where they were headed. When he found out, he told them, "I want to help you." He put his hand in his pocket and pulled out a handful of gold coins. "Which one of you wants these?" he asked. "I want them," replied the big brother immediately. The old man hand in his pocket and pulled out a precious gem, shining like the sun, and asked again, "Which one of you want to have the gem?" "I want it," hastily answered the big brother, and the old man gave him the gem. Then the old man put down the sack he was carrying on his back and said, "Now, who is going to help me bring this sack to the village?" The big brother said nothing. On the other hand, the little brother pulled up his sleeves and bent it down to help him. The old man smiled and said, "Take it with you, my boy, along with everything that is inside." "No, it's not mine." Take it, said the old man. "It's my gift to you." The little boy, or the little brother, opened the sack, and what did his eyes see? The bag was filled with precious gemstones. He stood up to thank the old man, but he was nowhere to be found. The final folk tale that I'm going to show you today is called The Fox and the Tiger, and this is a Chinese folk tale. So pause the video now and give it a read. Once a fox met a tiger. The latter bared his teeth, stretched out his claws, and was about to devour him. But the fox spoke and said, "My dear sir, you must not think that you are the only king of the beasts. Your courage does not compare to my own. Let us walk together, and do you keep behind me. And if men catch sight of me and do not fear me, then you may devour me." The tiger was willing, and so the fox led him along a broad highway. But the travelers, when they saw the tiger in the distance, were all frightened and ran away. Then the fox said, "How about it? I went in advance, and the men saw me and had not as yet seen you." And thereupon the tiger drew in his tail and ran away himself. The tiger had remarked quite well that the men were afraid of the fox, but he had not noticed that the fox had borrowed the terror he inspired from them. I'm now going to go through a few characteristics that you can find that flow through various folk tales. I will read through some of them, but you can also pause the video and read through them yourself. As discussed, folk tales have been handed down from generation to generation, and they are usually timeless. They've been invented by people purely for entertainment, and they could start with things like once upon a time, long, long ago, one morning. You also generally don't know where they are taking place. They can be generally placeless, and their characters are everyday people or animals that can usually talk, but they also are what we call flat characters, in that they're either good or evil. They don't change through the story. Plot in these stories can happen quite quickly. In the beginning, we are presented with the character and the conflict. We have a climax. We have important actions that take place in order to solve the problem. And problem is usually solved in the end with logical steps or a happy ending. It is written usually using colloquial speech that is very visual, and there's various tools that we can use to do that. And often there is a theme that tells of values of the culture that they belong to, virtues like humility, patience, hard work, sharing, and courage. And they sometimes use patterns of 3 or phrases that are repeated over and over again. My task to you today is the following. Go and research some folk tales from different countries. Read them through, and then come up with a toolkit for what goes into a folk tale. You can use some of the characteristics that we've obviously been through, but have a look and see if you can come up with a toolkit of what is needed when you are writing a folk tale. Please share this on Tapestry with us. We love to see your work, and I'd like to see some of the things that you come up with.